Let's talk about how Robot Schedule can monitor files and use those events as a prerequisite for a Robot Schedule job. So what sort of file event monitoring can Robot Schedule provide? First of all, Robot Schedule can monitor both native libraries and files in the integrated file system for files being added, changed, deleted, or reaching a certain size. We can also look for file members in a multi-member physical file, and this monitoring can be qualified, and we'll take the file name and the path of the file and we'll store that dynamically in a reserved command variable that matches the event name that you define in Robot Schedule. Additionally, if you add Robot Schedule Enterprise to your base license of Robot Schedule, you can also monitor for file events out in the Windows, Linux, or Unix world. Same deal, file adds, change, delete, size, thresholds. We can monitor for changes to directories. Additionally, you can also monitor for services and daemons starting and stopping. All of these file events and likewise service and daemon events can be prerequisites to a robot job, and as you know, we call that reactivity. So you can use a combination of file events as well as other robot job events as prerequisites. Let's take a look at how this is set up. A couple prerequisites for file event monitoring in Robot Schedule. You have to at least be on version 12 of the product, and the file event monitoring is set up in the graphical interface. For native file event monitoring, you'll go under Scheduling Objects, and then you'll choose Event Monitors. You can see I've got a number of event monitors set up. We'll look at a couple of those in a moment. But to add a new file event monitoring, you do something like this. Right-click in Event Monitors and say New. You will name the event monitor. I'll just call this CL Test 1 for now. You'll give it some kind of a description, and then you'll choose the event type that you're looking for. The file event monitoring looks in the integrated file system, so you can see we've got a prompt button that allows you to navigate through your integrated file system. The directory event would be, for instance, maybe you want to monitor for any added directories of the home directory. And then likewise, a member event would look more like this. You can prompt, or you can simply type in the path of the library, the file, and in this case what I'm looking for is any new member added to my EFT file will trigger this event. Now you notice you can also use wildcards. So in this case what we'll do is when this EFT file member shows up, we'll take the entire string including the file member name and we'll put that into a Robot Schedule reserved command variable of the same name as the file event. Alright, let's take a look at some of my previously configured file events. I've got one called EFT, and what this is doing is it's looking in my bank1 directory in my integrated file system for any files that start with EFT. I might have a date or some string of characters appended after the EFT, so when that file shows up in the directory, if it's added, that will trigger my file event. The file event is enabled. I'm looking for this file every 5 seconds. I can also say it's only valid for a certain time range. Other file events that you can look for are added, removed, changed, or has reached a certain threshold. You can also say if the file has been added, or the member has been added, or a directory has been added. You maybe want it to stabilize, so you want to say has not changed in a certain amount of time. Now I'm going to right click on my event and we've got some options. First of all, we have event monitor history. So when was the last time that this event actually occurred? Well, it looks like it occurred twice on February 9th. And the file that was added in my Bank 1 directory looked like this. It was EFT, and then it had the date appended, and there was both an A and a B that occurred on the same day. So this is the information then that we store automatically in a reserve command variable of the same name. So you could use that, for instance, to do an upload using robot schedule. Another option when you right-click on your event is to look at the dependent reactive jobs. So I have 3 jobs that are dependent upon this file event. I have my nightly process, I have an EFT process, and a Fiserv process that are all dependent. Let's look at this in terms of a job flow. What we're looking at is a job flow diagram or blueprint in robot schedule. And here is the EFT native file event that I just described. Right-clicking on that, we can see some of the same options such as event monitor history, and we can go into the properties. When this event occurs, it is a prerequisite for these 2 jobs, EFT proc, Fiserv 1, as well as my nightly process. To make a job reactive to a file event, it's simply a matter of modifying the properties of the job, going to reactivity, and selecting add event. And this will bring up the list of your various native file events that are available. Now we're going to go into my Bank 1 directory, and we're going to add a file into this directory. Okay, you can see my file is now available in my Bank 1 directory. My file event monitor is monitoring that every 5 seconds, and by looking at the event monitor history, we can see the file was detected, it was added to that directory, and here's the file name. Now because of that, that triggered these 2 jobs as well as my nightly processing. So let's take a look at the job completion history, and sure enough, there it is, April 12th, that job has run. I also mentioned you can set up file event monitors in the Windows Unix side of the world, as long as you have the Robot Schedule Enterprise server added to your base license of Robot Schedule. Robot Schedule Enterprise gives you access to Windows Linux and Unix servers, and from there you can set up events. It's called agent event monitoring. I have several agent events set up. For instance, I have one called CLEFT. In this case, the agent event, instead of looking at a native directory, is pointed at a specific Windows agent. I do have a time range where the file event is active, and in this case I'm looking at the C drive in an enterprise directory, could be named anything, and I'm also looking for an EFT file. Let's make that happen. The directory that's being monitored on my Windows agent is called Enterprise, and I've got a number of EFT files in my backup directory there. So I'm going to take one of these, I'm going to copy it into my Enterprise directory. What's happening now is Robot Schedule Enterprise, the agent, is watching this directory and identifying that this is a new file in the directory. Let's look at the results of that file monitoring. The agent event history is showing that yes, that file was detected. I actually added the file twice, and it detected both occurrences about a minute apart. And likewise, that then triggered downstream processes. The dependent reactive jobs for that particular agent event looks like this. So once again, my nightly process, and then I also have an EFT process called EFT Windows. To add a Robot Schedule Enterprise agent event as a prerequisite to any of your jobs, it looks like this. Once again, under the Reactivity tab, instead of selecting Add event, you'll click on Add Agent Event. And then you can select any of those predefined robot schedule agent events as a prerequisite. And you can combine these with native file events, with other robot job prerequisites, much like what I've done here. I have 2 agent events, a robot schedule job, and a native file event, all as prerequisites to my nightly processing. If you do have any questions about setting up file event monitoring and robot schedule, please reach out to technical support. Thanks for listening.